Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm afraid the time's up. It's 3 o'clock now. So I hope you enjoyed the innovation think tanks. I hope you had a good discussion in your tables. I hope you made some good contacts, share some good information, and you've got some good takeaways from each of the think tanks. I'm now going to go around each think tank just to get a brief summary of what was discussed on each think tank, just the key points. So I'll do it in order. So I'll start with number one on hotspots or hot pots, but maybe hotspots for inbound logistics. And to exit the stage, I'll use something I learned at Cirque du Soleil many years ago. So over to Kevin Wade from Honda, just to give us a couple of brief points from his think tank. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Louis. Okay, our think tank was inbound logistics. What technology? Each of the different companies may have some examples. We got a wide variety of support with railroad, OEMs, 3PLs, carriers. And so what different areas of technology, how you apply it, and what you're trying to get out of it. One thing we started out with our example is that, of course, use of GPS. Just like Mike was saying, Venture Logistics and Subaru using 214s to get GPS positioning. That's something that Honda has mandated our carrier base this past year in regards to either have a choice of using a extended 214 of GPS positioning with a 15-minute ping, or can use one of our 3PL's smartphone mobile apps that can load the trip requirements, and then we have instantaneous GPS feeds to our TMS application that we can bring up at any time. Again, what the purpose of that was, again, of course, knowing exactly where our freight's at. That's key in this just-in-time environment anymore, is to really know what the true situation is. Be able to, knowing whether it's going to make its projected delivery time. Knowing that our carriers' window times are being honored by our supply base. They're not being detained an excessive amount of time that would affect the utilization of the drivers. And of course, the e-logs requirement in the U.S. is really driving us hard with that. It's there's not any leadway anymore here shortly with e-logs being part of everyday requirements now in the transportation industry. Of course, then Sai from UPDS brought up that similar activity. They have 25 plus dray carriers around the country and North America that they're, again, have the same requirements of e-logs. So knowing where those dray carriers are exactly any given time and what box they're attached to is paramount. And then, of course, looking at how they can put GPS tracking of the intermodal containers. Once it gets outside of the rail network, they lose traceability and trackability of exactly where it should be at. So that's a key point. I know the gentleman from Lunch Port Group is doing the same thing, is putting GPS technology on all the boxes to know where their assets are so they can get it back into the loop where it can be utilized and bring the revenue that was intended to do. Some other service providers and 3PL transportation company in India that supports Honda and Toyotas. Again, they use GPS quite a bit with drivers and monitoring the behaviors, efficiency. Maybe haven't quite got it to a level where you're being able to do route monitoring with it yet. But again, it's used throughout India. A lot of discussion about predictive analysis using GPS with road conditions and how to perhaps divert drivers that are en route that may have a problem with let's say a bridge that collapsed somewhere around the area. We seem to have those in the south as well as central regions as well. Geofencing, some examples with packaging, using about data capturing of packaging requirements, integrating those packaging requirements, sharing it throughout the supply chain, condition of packaging. Dynamic load planning is something that's some new technologies that with integration of systems, packaging systems, demand management systems, cubing software. That seems to be a trend that's increasing all the time with a lot of customers, and being able to affect orders that would increase your cube of your trailers. Thus, again, the efficient utilization of your transportation resources, your drivers that are always in a short supply. More examples, again, just more leveraging of old technology of EDI. Just again, more integration is being added throughout the supply chain with trace and track capabilities, customs integration, confirmation through import-export transactions. Examples of tracking of ocean carriers and containers throughout the globe, of tracking those containers. Our friends from Toyota is some technology of integrating multiple demand sources, in particular the daily OEM manufacturing logistics combining with service part logistics, and being able to take that data, coupling it, and running shared routing across their network for suppliers for both, again, manufacturing parts as well as service parts. Leveraging the supply chain and the cross-docking networks that they have, and as well as the Toyota production system for managing inventory across multiple business units. So they're under a transformation of consolidation of business activity within Toyota. Some questions about 3D printing and where we're at with that. Again, I think most of us are still in the design phase of that and not necessarily producing production grade parts yet, but I'm sure it will mature over time. Some discussion about cars communicating to dealerships and being able to forecast service part demand. It's again, limited applications. Some luxury models are doing that, and or some hybrid models, but again, it's not mainstream. And the last discussion we ended up on was about technology of weather sensing. There's some great weather sensing tools out there now that cross the North American continent that can predict flooding, like last week as an example in Missouri, of particular routes that are going to be in a risk, suppliers that are risks for snowstorms, earthquakes. Again, we have some applications where we've linked our supply chain to those sensing tools, and that way our logistics and purchasing folks can make a decision to pull ahead freight to try to keep factories running despite what's going on at the supplier's location. So that's kind of the examples we went through, as quite a bit, or wider range of use of technology applications in inbound logistics.
Thank you very much. That sounds like a very fruitful discussion there. There was plenty of challenges that were shared, but it was interesting to hear that there's optimism of the solutions that are out there, and solutions that are out there soon. So it's an example of looking forward, but not the necessity to look too far forward, because perhaps there's some solutions out there for now. So this table over here was really looking at data analytics for the supply chain. I'd like to hand over to Ryder to quote Harvard. Thank you.
Thanks, Louis. So we did, a comprehensive analysis of business intelligence and analytics, with really the intent being understand the difference between the two and kind of gauge where we stood within our organizations as far as do we have intelligence, do we have analytics, and I think we all came to the consensus that we do definitely have a lot of intelligence, we have a lot of data, but trying to figure out the first steps in the process to go about a predictive analytics or a prescriptive analytics. That's where we came to the discussions related to what's really required. And a couple of the different things that we heard today, it starts with really strong data. You need to know, first, do you have good data, bad data in, bad data out? But then you got to figure out that we have a lot of data that's out there. What's the right approach? Do you take it all in one big, long chunk, or do you do test cases? Do you use specific areas? And I think once again we came to the conclusion that it's definitely going to be something where you do want to pilot with a specific location, work with the customer, work with your counterparts to figure out what the end goal really needs to be, and then define what type of system you want to use. We know that there's a lot of different analytical softwares that are out there. Some are used more than others, but nevertheless know what your end goal is as a result. So clean data, definitely got to get through some of the politicalness associated with the data that you're trying to mining for, but then also be able to pay for that, because whether it's an LLP, a service provider, or the customer themselves, you have to find a way to get this paid for, whether it's a return on investment, whether you're reducing structural costs, but there has to be some sort of benefit that ends up being gained as a result. So some good discussion related to that. Definitely, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach that's going to take here. So knowing what your end result is, you can customize these types of solutions. But once again, every single piece of our conversation then ended up coming back to what type of data are you really going after? How much are you measuring? Are you measuring the right data? How much detail you need to go into? Because you can get past descriptive analytics or the reports that we communicate out to our internal teams, external teams, but to be able to predict the future or potentially prescribe what's going to happen next, there's specific information that we probably are not retaining right now that we need to figure out as a collective group within our organizations to find out what is really necessary to take those next steps. There's a great quote from a gentleman in here that I'm going to mention, but as you walk through the visibility, and we talked a lot about visibility as well as a kind of a starting point for at least whether it's over-the-road trucks, whether it's rail, whether it's intermodal shipments, to be able to have that information that you can utilize does get you in a position to be much more prescriptive in nature as far as making decisions. But a lot of carriers are currently on EDI. Companies are moving to the GPS solution. But if any one of those specific areas ends up breaking down at a certain point, it's the analogy of, was it from Seinfeld? That you could eat at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, have a fabulous dinner. Atmosphere was fantastic. You end with a nice little nightcap, and you get out into the taxi, and it's just full of BO. Your entire experience is ruined as a result of that. So what do you remember as a result? And we know with carrier scorecarding, with what we're graded on from KPIs, that when you do end up implementing a solution, you have predictive analytics, you want to make sure that they mean something, but the system has to work from end to end, or it's not going to be successful. So I think the key takeaways is that we're all in certain levels of our business intelligence and overall the analytics of where we want to head to, but biting them off in smaller chunks, I think, is probably the right direction to go to kick off, unless you're just full bore, ready to rock, and you have a data scientist that's just ready to analyze everything. And I think we're all probably collectively moving there to a certain point, but this will definitely be the wave of the future. So, you guys have anything to add? All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Another interesting discussion there, the importance of data analytics and business intelligence, the collecting of information to help us. It's all right, having all this technology and the plans out there, but unless you understand where you're going and why you're going there, then it's not that useful. Now we're looking at perhaps a new idea, supply chain as a service. And this time I hand over to Shankar from BXB.
Thanks, Lewis. So thank you all at this table for joining and for a great discussion. I'll try and recap some of the points we talked about. So this is a new concept and supply chain as a service. So first we explored what it means or what it could mean, and who the beneficiaries would be, and what would drive it. Of course, we also talked about what the challenges and barriers would be to achieving this, and ultimately what this would be worth, and to whoever values it ultimately. So in terms of just what it could be, we explored a variety of things. Today, many companies are already offering their solutions as a service, be it packaging. We know I do it at CHEP, and they also do it at Sealed Air Corporation. We explored, whether supply chain as a service could also can be more than just about logistics, as in the case of just for procurement purposes. There is also the challenge. So one of the key challenges is that to do any of this, we need to share data, which was sort of the key point. But people are not willing to share data. We talked about the example of where multiple modalities of transformation are optimizing within themselves, but not across them. So then somebody like a port authority has to step in to provide that visibility and that exchange of information, and that could be a service. And also, all of these services, to generate the data and to offer them as a service, there is investment needed. And so the question is, how will we invest, and who will invest? So in terms of what is the first thing that stands out as a good and perhaps a good candidate for supply chain as a service, we talked about visibility. Just visibility. Where are my goods or assets, and how are they doing, and how long have they been where they've been, type of thing. And even to generate this level of visibility, the first question is, does the customer really care? And we said two things. We said, visibility reduces uncertainty for everybody, and so they probably care. And also that the end customer may not care about exactly where things are, but wants to be sure that it will arrive where it's supposed to arrive, exactly the same way every time. So to have that level of reliability, somebody needs to have visibility into making that possible. So visibility as a service is one of the key topics of discussion. And then, can we monetize all of this? This is the multi-million-dollar question, I guess, in terms of when and how and who will pay for this. So initially, it's maybe just a cost of doing business, but over time, as we show value through the information and the visibility, there's an opportunity for everyone to capture value. Anything else the team would like to add? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Shankar. Again, visibility, a topic that seems to be high on everybody's minds, and has been almost from our first supply chain, first logistics conference in the year 2000, was a big issue then. And now we're looking at supply chain talent, and leading this panel was Mr. Supply Chain Talent 1948. So Mike Silvio from Cooper Standard.
Thank you. We had a great discussion. A few of the things that, it really became obvious to the group is that it really starts with hiring the right people up front and getting good people. And I think the term that was used is you're looking for people that are smart and prematurely wise, that could fit into your organization, have the right personality types for where your corporation or company is in their life cycle. So good fit, good attitude. Good places to start are looking at veterans and looking at the universities that have supply chain programs, but not exclusively. You want to find good people with the skill sets that you can develop. We need to promote mentoring, not only between our people and the new people, or our current people and the new people, but also encouraging our students to become mentors themselves so they can learn exactly what it's like to lead and develop people. It seems that the younger students like the flexibility, but we know that they need structure, and we need to make sure they have an environment that they can succeed. And to do that, they need to understand their career path so they know where they're going and how they can advance. If we don't give them that ability to visualize where they will be, they're all talking to their friends who are sharing that vision, and they will start to see themselves in their friends' jobs and not theirs. And that's a good reason to leave. Also, the last thing is to view it as if you're growing your own rock stars, your own logistics rock stars, and getting them to be where you want them to be and stay with the company, because turnover, we know, is a problem and very costly. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Tomorrow we've got a session on supply chains of the future. And again, Michael will be talking in that session, also sharing some other personal experiences from his work with the next generation, both at his company, but also as a lecturer at Wayne State University. So now we're going to be looking at, I suppose, the whole point of the whole conference. This think tank was called Go Innovate. So to talk about this, we've got, is it Daniel from Informal?
All right, so just to kind of piggyback on everyone else, we had really good discussions over here, but Bill didn't want to talk about it, so he's a little camera shy today, I think. So, but we started off with figuring out you can't talk about innovation without really defining what innovation is and what it isn't. Innovation is not necessarily only technology. It's a way to solve a problem and kind of do it with a new way of thinking to get there. And so we talked about just how we get there, how we use that in our corporations, how do we create a culture of innovation, as well as when you innovate, there's inherent risks that happen. So how do you encourage people to innovate knowing that there could be risks involved? How do you quantify them, and how do you define them and kind of have a backup plan in case you do fail? You know, so how do you not fall behind, as well as sometimes maybe you don't want to innovate and maybe you want to be a fast follower, which was a term that was thrown out there. So you're not necessarily the first company to do it, but you're right on their heels in order to follow along with their innovations with a proven platform. So I think that was pretty much it.
I'd say that was a slam dunk.
All right, cool.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for being the mouthpiece for Bill Wappler. And I'm sure you're all as shocked as I am to hear that he was camera shy. But thank you very much for an another interesting discussion there. So I hope you enjoyed the think tanks. I hope you understood and got what we were trying to do, which was really just trying to have little discussions, put you in small groups. These groups could have almost been anything on any subjects. But we just want to get people, you know, you're here for the conference. You're not here necessarily to hear lectures. If any of you were really expecting to hear great solutions that were going to solve your problems overnight, you were always going to be disappointed. It's a chance to meet, bring people together, share ideas in the coffee breaks, listening to the presentations, but just having a chance to discuss with people who are in your industry. It's great if they're like-minded people. Perhaps it's even better if they're different-minded people, so you can hear what other people are doing. But that was the point of these think tanks, was just to have almost an informal discussion, an informal chat on something that interests you and is hopefully important to your industry. I'm going to, this is probably, shooting myself in the foot here, and I know that there's a lot of people out there who would like to shoot me in the foot. But I'm going to use the red and green cards again. If you can hold the cards up and just let us know if you found the think tanks useful, interesting, a good chance to chat and discuss, please, that's the green side. If you didn't find them very useful and just kind of faded away or whatever, then please use the red side. So it'd be interesting to know your thoughts if you found them valuable. Okay, thank you very much. That's overall a positive feedback. So thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed them. But, this isn't the end of the discussions and the sharing and the networking. So please join us for the coffee breaks now outside. Visit the stands and find out what they're doing. Join us back for a fantastic session. Looking forward to manufacturing of the future. After that, there'll be coaches outside to take us to the gala dinner venue, the rider-hosted gala dinner venue, which gives us a great dinner and a great evening of more networking. Then after that, to another networking event at the Serge-hosted Afterglow networking event. I'm not calling it a party. And then we'll see you back here at 9 o'clock sharp for tomorrow's session. But I'm glad you enjoyed the think tanks. Get your well-deserved coffees and cookies, and we'll see you back in the room at 4 o'clock. Thank you.